South Africa's agricultural sector, which has benefited from 25 years of duty-free access to the marketplace here in the United States, courtesy of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, is already suffering from the loss of that artificial 2% advantage and the imposition of a 10% tariff on all goods from South Africa outside of copper, steel, and automobiles, 10% since April when President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs. Well, what are South African authorities doing? They're doing virtually nothing. When they should be here in America negotiating with the Trump administration, Parks Tao, John Steenhuisen, Paul Mashatile, and other ministers spent a week in China trying to work out a deal with a country that imposes 30 and 40% tariffs already, that gives them no benefit of being a BRICS member. So we're going to delve into this story and talk about citrusol and the devastating impact this could have on South Africa's citrus industry. So we've got Fundamava with us, who is the CEO of ALG Farms, and hopefully we'll find out what that stands for. I think that's the brothers' given names. I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. He's an 8th-generation citrus farmer in the citrusol area of the Western Cape, and also head of the South African Citrus Growers Association.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to chat.
Well, let's go ahead and start with this situation. So you and I both know it, and I'm concerned for your industry. I suspect you're concerned as well. You do have a comparative advantage in that you are in the Southern Hemisphere and have opposite seasons of those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere. So as a supplier, you can bring produce, citrus to the U.S. market at a time when we're not producing things, which is a comparative advantage for you. And actually the quality and then the experience of your farming community, I think, use your real advantage. That's something I suspect that your industry would like to highlight, but is it really something you're going to be able to do? I don't know if you have industry lobbying groups here on K Street or in the U.S. What's happening with that? Because it appears the government of South Africa isn't really negotiating with the U.S. at the moment. We're just kind of waiting.
Chris, I think waiting game is what we have. We don't really know what's going on, although we get our feelers into government. There is a deal trying to be established. How far the deal is and what the deal really is, we don't know. But yeah, we are counter-seasonable. Our weather is very similar to California, so it's a very similar piece of fruit. So a lot of the consumers don't even know they're going up to South Africa after California is finished. And when we do the transition in November, California starts and most people don't know about it. So yeah, now we complement the Californian industry.
So most consumers here in America don't know that the products are from South Africa. So you don't put little proudly South African stickers on your fruit?
No, there's definitely South Africa on the fruit, but then you do the assumption that the US consumer actually looks what it buys. It just buys oranges. Somewhere there will be South Africa and there's PLUs on it, but yeah, we're just trying to supply a product, not advertise South Africa.
Well, one of the challenges here is with the tariffs that are coming. We already know that some tariffs have been applied. When President Trump came with these tariffs, and it's a global thing, some South African politicians have acted as if South Africa has been targeted, but actually South Africa has come off better than Canada. Canada has a 35% tariff, and at the moment South Africa has a 30%, neither of which is desirable, but I mean, it's not like you've been singled out. But when these tariffs came into effect, these reciprocal tariffs on a global scale back in April, President Trump applied them across the board. Some really outrageously high ones, like Lesotho was like 90 or 100%, something like that. And that's devastating for their economy that's based on textile exports. But for South Africa and for much of the world, Trump gave a reprieve of 90 days for negotiations and lowered that across the board to just 10% on most products. But there were exceptions: copper, steel, and automobiles being imported to America. And one of the things I want to mention very quickly and compare this to what's happening so far with the citrus industry in the Western Cape, because that's one place in South Africa where your products are exported to the U.S. The automobile industry has been hit pretty hard. The number of exports, because they have a 25% tariff, and they've lost their comparative advantage and their competitive advantage because they pay the same tariff that the Germans, the Mexicans, the Canadians pay, and they're able to get cars here much easier and a higher volume. So South Africa has a 25% tariff on cars since April, and we've seen the volumes of exports shipped to the United States drop from 9,700 automobiles to just 1,100. There are already job losses in that sector, and it's already spreading throughout those communities, particularly in the Eastern Cape and in Gauteng, where these cars are produced. For yourself, you've only been hit thus far, I believe, with the 10% tariff. Now, compare that with no tariffs under the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act previously. That still hurts. That's about a 12% hit. Has that had any impact already? Do we see people being made redundant or reduce production, or are you able to just get along with that tariff for the moment?
I think for now we've decided to talk to our customers. We've taken some of the tariff on board ourselves. Some people in the cost chain has helped, and also the US consumers also helped a little bit. So the 10 or the 12% tariff you're talking about, it's something we can handle. What's going to happen on the 30%? That's a massive unknown at the moment, and I think our volumes to the US will drop drastically.
Well, that's one of the points I've made for a long time here is that what happens with tariffs is that people say, well, the consumer is going to pay for it. Well, that's not always true. If the tariff isn't significant, a lot of times in order to retain market share, you'll see the suppliers and or those middlemen try to eat the cost or part of that cost and pass it through partially through the supply chain. And sometimes the consumer does eat the cost. And as you've discussed here with the 10 to 12%, that's manageable. But 30% and possibly 40%. President Trump is, after the comments coming out of the BRICS summit in Brazil, said anybody that supports BRICS policies, here's an additional 10% tariff for you. And that's non-negotiable. Being a BRICS member, I presume that's going to apply to South Africa, but that wasn't clear when the tariff letter came out on the 9th, or actually it was on the 6th or 7th of July. South Africa got theirs on the first day. So 30 or 40%, I suspect that could be devastating to your industry.
Yeah, I think Chris, it's two prone. One, I mean, Chile and Peru is our biggest competition and they're sitting at 10. So we definitely going to lose market share to them. And then, like you correctly pointed out, at the 10%, it's going to increase the cost of the consumer. People will eat some of the tariff on the short term, but medium to long term, I think things are going to settle and then it's going to be absorbed somewhere and the consumer would likely pay for it. So yes, we're going to lose market share, but also the US consumer will probably buy a bit less because it's slightly more expensive. So we're losing a bit of the market and also a massive amount of market share because Chile and Peru will be so much cheaper than us.
Well, and that addresses one of the points I made previously. That is specifically that sometimes producers will eat the cost of a tariff if they can to retain market share. It's difficult to gain market share. I mean, I don't think most people realize just how complicated business can be. You're sitting in the Western Cape running farming operations, producing citrus, and you have markets and customers that are sitting here in the United States. That's a long way from the Western Cape to my grocery store and lots of people in between. And those relationships, you have to be a reliable supplier. I remember during the lockdown when South Africa banned the transport of alcohol, and I immediately reported this is a dumb move. And people are like, why is it a dumb move? Well, you are shipping wine around the world and you have wholesalers that rely on those shipments of wine. And if you just stop supplying it, they're going to have to go elsewhere for the wine. And when they come back to the time where you're allowed to ship it again, you might not be in that marketplace anymore. Someone may have picked up your share unless you have a compelling product or a comparative advantage that's really special. So is there any concern that you might be aced out of this market when, as you said, Chile and Peru kind of pick up the empty space and keep you out of it in the future?
I think to sum it up, I think a friend of mine we don't sell oranges, we sell confidence of supply. And I think that's probably our main concern. With the 30% tariff and our competition being 10, our confidence of supply has taken a massive hit. So now any other buyer, especially going into next year, say we take the tariff on short term, we take a big loss and we try our best, and this year we get through it. Next year, the buyer is going to come and say, listen, can I really put all my eggs in the South African basket? Or must I look at Peru and look at Chile? So there's already some devastating effects. I've got programs, we resupply 100% of the East Coast business in the summertime. But next year, the buyer's just going to go, listen, I can't take the risk. Maybe our government and Trump goes into another war and we're in trouble, and then it knocks another 30 or 40%. So I think already the damage has been done, but we're trying to mitigate as best we can, trying to get back to the 10%. So at least we're on level playing terms. But I mean, yeah, just trying to sell that confidence and keeping your elbows out on market share, that's going to be our main concern going into next year.
Well, I think that's a key point that you raised, and that is specifically that it appears that you can be competitive if you're on a level playing field because you have a comparative advantage in the quality and reliability of your supply. Did I get that right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've been supplying the US market for over 25 years. I mean, we've built up relationships, we've done shipping deals, we've invested in US companies on that side, handling our product. So it's something you've built on, but like you said, you can lose your confidence in 1 year. You can build something in 20 years, lose it once. Once Peru and Chile is in, you can't get in, or somebody else. So that's a major concern for us. And yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting road ahead, but definitely some tough choices if this is if the 30% continues.
Well, another piece of this is that a lot of people in South Africa who really, I don't think understand economics and understand markets have said simply things like, well, we'll just shift to other markets. It's not quite as simple as that. You've just laid out what happens here. You have to have suppliers, wholesalers, you have to build relationships, sometimes invest in companies and distributors in other countries. shifting your market isn't as easy as people make it out, and especially for a perishable item. I mean, it's one thing to produce iPads, and then, okay, build a market, go advertise. It may take time, but at least they're not going to expire. But unless you take your citrus and turn it into orange juice or tangerine juice or something like that, this stuff's going to expire. You've got a shelf life on that, and you've got to do something with it. So, is it as easy as many politicians and pundits claim? You just simply shift your market, or is this a challenge?
Thank you for this question. I really hate it when people say diversify. We've very, very well diversified as South African citrus. We in India, we in China, we from the industry that's most diversified. Although we are in BRICS, which has not helped us quite a bit, we still run into massive tariffs in India and also China, and we're not selling in half the amount of product we actually sell to the USA at the moment. And to talk about so first of all, opening market takes about 10 years, maybe 12. I think the Philippines took 12 years. And now you've got to develop that market, which is slightly more challenging. I mean, it's a small thing. We offload fruit every week in the US. People know what they want. They can order their trucks. That guy's got business. But if you've got 1 week big supply and then 4 weeks off, then 1 week on in a new market, where's the forklift driver going to come from? Is he going to work for 1 week and sit at home for 3? The truck driver. So you get these supply chains. I mean, we've been selling at roughly the same price in the US for the past 25 years. So that's how we've been doing. We've been attacking the cost chain, the supply chain, making it more efficient. South Africa is without a doubt the preferred supplier in the US in the summertime because we do things right. We do it through the book and being as cost effective as possible. You don't copy and paste that into another country, especially like India and China. It's going to take years. And doing that market development is going to take pain. And I mean, at the moment, South Africa needs wins, not losses. And I'm very concerned that this is a loss.
Well, I think that's a good point. I definitely think it's a loss. And when we talk about that, you talk about markets like India and China where the tariffs that are already at levels as high or higher than what Trump is going to impose. So that's already something you're contending with. It's already difficult to be profitable in those locations. So what is the challenge? Let's take all this back and let's hope and pretend that the tariffs go back to 10% or zero. Wouldn't that be amazing? Let's hope they go back to that. To somehow, I don't know, divine intervention or something happens between now and August 1st, or maybe shortly after that when people see the pain and this gets under control at the level you can manage it. What's your biggest challenge going forward in the future? Is it still trying to grow and expand your markets in the US? Are you able to up production as a community, or are you at a saturation point at this stage?
No, I think if we're sitting with a 30-40% unemployment in South Africa, so there's massive, massive scope. And I think the citrus industry is one of the few industries unskilled workers can come yearly, and we can give them work. So we're giving work, we're giving forex, which is quite phenomenal. And if you're looking at the US or first world economies, they're running out of kids, running out of workers at 15, 18. Their population growth is going the wrong way. So I see Africa, South America being a major supplier of fresh fruit and veg for the world, purely because we've got the workers. And I'm looking forward to what we can do in 10, 15 years from now. But we have to get there. We can't fight the ports. We can't fight international trade. As a private business in citrus oil, we can only do so much. And if we go in the rural areas, the rural areas is going to fall to pieces. So yes, the farmers, I don't want to be put on a pedestal, but we're fighting a certain fight and allow us to do it. That's all we want. That's all we ask.
Now, this is a topic I didn't plan to talk about, but it seems apropos now. I want to bring this up because I've taken a look at your particular farming operation. It's ALG, I believe is the name of it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I've taken a look at that, and I see that your farm is doing something that I've been talking about for several years. When it comes to land restitution in South Africa, we often see that the government doesn't provide extension services, credit, training, loans, and things like that that aspiring non-traditional farmers are looking for. What I've noticed is that you folks have a project there that turned land over to some of your most loyal laborers who developed their skills and are actually running a project and growing citrus on their own now. Do you mind talking a little bit about that project? Because the reason I ask is that for a long time, I've said that the few cases of successful small scale farming for those entering the space in the past 15 or 20 years has often been a consequence of existing commercial farmers who have helped the new aspiring farmers, whether it's in the macadamia nut industry or it's in citrus or it's in cattle, help them develop the skills and get along so they can survive until they can stand on their own. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, I think our philosophy, first of all, we farm in Africa and we farm in citrus dal. We have people that's not going through school. We have people that doesn't have work. So we take that as private business as our responsibility. And definitely in the Citrus Dal Valley, ALG is not alone in this philosophy. A lot of people are trying. So we do give scholarships. We have pre-primary schools. We have the after-school learning center with the education side. But one of our main success projects was started in 1999, early doors, when we gave land over to 33 of our most loyal workers. It's changed hands a bit. I think they're at 36 or 30 at the moment. And we've helped them develop the farm. We call it the business model as clustering. They come up to help our pack house, our marketing, and they're up to 130 hectares at the moment. I mean, it's a very successful business. It's continuing to grow. And we're helping to, yes, we've got the business owners on the one side, but also getting through education and feeding programs with our people, our young kids especially, and getting them up and trying to get them up in our business. So trying to solve the problems which every rural or third world country is facing. So yeah, we like to think that the citrus industry and ALG is part of the solution, and hopefully we can take that further. But with this US tariff at the moment, that's going to be a tough one. We're going to have to take 2, 3 steps back, and I'm unsure if the community can afford this.
And that's actually a question I want to delve into because larger scale farmers might have the resource and may not. I mean, people have bonds on land, they have to borrow money to expand. And so oftentimes a lot of farmers have a lot of debt hanging over their head, and a bad season can hurt you as well with the floods or droughts. So, but usually larger farmers have the resources that can survive. But smaller farmers are often the ones caught on the hook when conditions turn against them, whether it's a flood or a drought or these tariffs. Is that going to be a challenge? It sounds like it is for that project potentially, but other small scale citrus farmers in the citrus Dal region.
Yeah, I think with our project, they've got a big brother looking after them. So if they run out of money, we can fund them. We use our property as part of their collateral. The bigger company to make sure they have enough money on their own, they'll probably not be able to stand, and they will probably survive this, and hopefully ALG survives this. But from a smaller scale farmer or the one few BE projects that's just started up, they don't have that resources or the fallback position. So when the banks come knocking, they might be in trouble. So yeah, even on that front, maybe a business owner or a small farm that's been in generations for 10, 15 generations will also get into trouble. And I don't like an orchard being cut off or for farm being sold, because that means one hectare equals 2 workers. And if you cut off 100 workers, that 200's in citrus dull. Now, if they work or not, it's the community's problem. And we still have to solve that problem. So it's better for us to actually create jobs. It helps us solve the bigger rural issues that we all face every day.
Well, on that employment front, I can tell you this from my experience in citrus Dal. I think you keep people employed full time, keeping that road open. That thing keeps flooding out and washing out. I was there, massive project. I thought it was over, but it was still in operation, still repairing that road when I was there a couple months ago. I mean that valley is capricious when it comes to that entranceway into citrus Dal, isn't it?
Yeah, that was quite a knock. I think it happened 2 years ago, and we warned everybody. And like most state operations, just copy and paste, do the same thing. Hopefully, it never happens again. And it doubled last year. So then, through all our frustrations and meetings and everything, we actually have to give kudos to the government. They've come in, have upgraded our roads slightly, and the Western Cape Department of Agriculture has been brilliant. They've gave us 12.5 million rand last year to clean up the river, and there's another 22 million rand to clean up the river around the town, to make sure the water flows, especially around the municipality grounds, to make sure that it doesn't stop at the bridge again, and the water goes through. Because again, if we don't have a bridge, it's a knock on confidence of supply, and you've got that downward spiral. So yeah, we want to play in a first world country. We actually have to supply like a first world country. So that's our philosophy.
Well, I want to get back to discussion of the citrus specifically and talk about what you export to the U.S. But before I do that, I want to just ask this question. I think I know the answer, but I know that farm operations in South Africa aren't always characterized fairly by those in the public sphere, in media, and in politics. I'm going to guess, and if I get it wrong, correct me. But I'm going to guess that the reason that you've worked with aspiring farmers is that you're South African. They're South African. You care about your community. You want everybody to be successful. And that's why I suspect you probably believe in the same philosophy that I do. The rising tide lifts all boats. Now, if I've spoken for you incorrectly, you feel free to correct me at this point.
I mean, I can tell you a lot of sales pitches, but I like reality. I mean, we started with pre-primary schools where we give three meals a day for kids from 2 to 6 years old from the early 90s. Our first project, we started the project in 1998 before the word BE was ever mentioned. So this was something we've done on philosophy, not on ticking box ticking exercise. So yeah, we've built because we do what we feel is right, not what a BE scorecard or anything tells us, and hopefully that's going to pay long-term dividends.
I suspect it will pay long-term dividends because the people in your community, I suspect, respect and are grateful for the fact that you're part of the community. All right, let's shift the focus back to what you ship to America here. Now, we discussed some different types of fruit that you were putting out there a short while ago, some of which I couldn't even identify. I mean, I didn't know the name of them. But you ship the equivalent on average somewhere between 5 and 6 million cartons of this fruit to the United States every year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know the idea was 7 million this year because we had a good crop. But with the tariffs, and yeah, we probably had to take 2 steps back.
So what happens to the other million cartons? Do they get turned into juice like Ceres, or what happens?
No, we are very well diversified. Europe is a big market. Unfortunately, with Cape Town port being one of the worst ports in the world, or not the worst according to some metrics, some of the boats just omit, especially the Middle East and the Far East boats omits Cape Town. So we are being channeled into Canada, Europe, and UK, which are, well, and the Mediterranean. A lot of our business is done there. So that's been our option traditionally. Although the Cape Town port has actually given a step in the right direction. So hopefully that can continue to improve. But at the moment, we're moving it to Europe and UK mostly.
Well, that raised an interesting question. You talk about the poor state of operations for South Africa in its ports. You mentioned Cape Town specifically. South Africa is rated last in the world amongst major exporting countries, 78th out of 78 countries for its port operations. It's really sad what's happening there. Is there no opportunity or no market to ship at a shorter distance by going to Saldanha Bay, or is that not capable of handling this sort of thing?
Well, Chris, are you putting your CV in of sorting out Saldanha Bay? That would be perfect. No, we've been trying to scream on the rooftops, trying to fix it. I think 50% of the fresh produce in the country goes through Cape Town Port. So I think it's a very good argument that Cape Town Port should be the best port in the country and at least in the top half. But now Cape Town was rated the worst last year, and it's the most of our fresh produce goes through there. So you can just imagine the money lost in the chain. And I think citrus is a semi-hardy product. If you go to blueberries and grapes and stone fruit, the products that really can't take it. I mean, there's a lot of money in the cost chain that we'd actually save up. So yeah, I'll call us to actually maybe fix Saldanha or definitely get a private participation into Cape Town, and hopefully we can improve that by going up to 30, 40 crane moves, not the 15, 18, maybe 20 on a good day where we're moving now.
Well, that's all very interesting, and I appreciate your information on that. But now I'm curious about your operations. We talked briefly about that, ALG Farms. Is that in fact short for an acronym for names or something? How did you get the
Yeah,
name?
no, it's three brothers bought it from their dad in 1974. My dad was Gerrit, I'm also Gerrit, and Alvin and Lieben. And they started the farm, not started the company in 1974. And they've been farming ever since. And I think back in the day where they were 40 hectares and we're touching 100,000 hectares now with a packing juice facility, import, export company. So really well diversified. So I'm very proud of Citrus Dal. We've got a multinational country in a farm without a traffic light, or in a town without a traffic light. So I think that's quite special.
There's no robot? No, that's right. It's just a stop sign,
No,
isn't it? It's a stop sign. It's
yeah,
not I was thinking the
it's
main road when you
it's
come in past the petrol station, but it's a stop sign.
but the stop sign is more a suggestion
Yeah,
than
yeah.
a stop sign.
It's South Africa. I know it's a suggestion. Trust me. I take my driving experience from Hillbrow. I know it's a suggestion. All right. So you talk about your dad and his brothers, your uncles founding the farm, but you're an eighth generation South African citrus farmer. I mean, that's quite a long legacy.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud to be it. I mean, I'm the 13th generation van der Merwe and the eighth in the Citrusdal Valley. So it's something that we've done and it's something we pride ourselves on. Although we were not massive citrus farmers 3, 4 generations ago, the last 2 generations really upped the ante. And with the whole global markets and what we can play in the global world, we've actually taken it to task. And I think ALG is quite special in that regards, the way we've done it, especially the last 20 years.
Well, I've got to ask this question. Of course, with a name like Fundameva, which well established in South Africa, it's been there for a very long time. I'll presume that you're a Springboks fan, and I'm going to lead by saying that what a weekend for the Fundameva brothers from different mothers. Edwill Fundameva with a brace of tries, and Marnus Fundameva on debut, the hooker getting 2 tries. That was just amazing for those guys against Georgia.
I was so disappointed. The only Vanamava plays for the British Irish Lions. Luckily, we've got two now and both on the scorecard. So yes, luckily I didn't know if Vanamava could play rugby, but those two was probably very far related from me because I missed the rugby gene.
Well, that skips a few generations sometimes, but no, congratulations to that. That was a fantastic performance by the Van de Meves. Very different gentlemen. One's a hooker, one's a winger. One guy's color, one guy's white, but they're both Springboks and they both outperformed this weekend. So let me ask you this question before we wrap up. Is there any message you'd like to say to the farming community, or maybe to, I don't know, to U.S. negotiators, that we can get something on track here? I hope you've got a message of hope because I am gravely concerned about these tariffs and what it will do to the future marketplace for you all.
I think, yeah, ideally, if you talk about the US negotiating side, I know when two elephants fight, the grass get hurt, and we definitely the grass in this organization. If you look at the global figures and what we do, although what we think is very impressive, and we do move the dial in rural towns like Clanwilliam and Citrusdal and Robertson, um, but we are getting hurt at the moment. And if you look about produce, it's out of season. It's make America healthy again. Where's my friend Bobby Kennedy? Hopefully we can get that exempt because we I don't want if I have to talk to Mr. Trump or President Trump, I want to ask him for please to open the market. I said, listen, please open a market for us, but what we'll give in return, we'll give you affordable, healthy product on a weekly basis to make sure that we actually make sure we help on inflation on that side. And what we get in return is we actually make a difference in Africa. We help with education. We help with getting people into business. And hopefully with that, if you get prosperity, the Western values would actually increase. And that's what America wants. They want prosperity in the rest of the world. Then it would actually a lot easier if people start being poor, they start becoming desperate. And that's where other regimes starts popping up and all of that debate. If you've got another hour, we can go into it. But at the moment, we're fighting on the capitalist side, and hopefully we can get prosperity in a small town like Citrusdal.
One of the challenges with the citrus growers in America, in California and in Florida, is more so in Florida than California, is the onset of frost. When that happens a little prematurely, that can jeopardize crops. Do you ever have that challenge? Because I look at the mountains behind Citrusdal and I see they get snow. Do you ever have any issues with frost?
No, I think Citrusdal is a wonderful valley. We don't have any wind compared to Cape Town or all the places. When the wind's pumping on that side, it's actually completely quiet. We're in the valley, so we do get frost, but we've never had frost damage. So we're actually very, very lucky. Bar the river to the past 2 years with excessive winds, we get occasional hailstorms. But overall, I think South Africa is one of the best places to farm citrus in the world. And that's why we're here, and that's why we're very proud of what we do.
All right, Gert van der Merwe in Citrusdal. Thank you so much for your time. Bye bye, Donkey. Appreciate it. And we'll keep our fingers crossed and maybe someone can work out a deal with no tariffs for the citrus industry. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Again, you're putting through your CV.
Well, I have my name has been mentioned with the Trump administration, but I don't think that's gone anywhere.
All right. All right. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time. And I like what you do. Well done.